Another thing I want to say, there's this sort of idea that I've heard a couple of teachers say thus far. I understand what they're trying to say. It's not incorrect, but I want to clarify. So there's a lot of teachers, especially in YouTube and Instagram, which is obviously I'm one of them, so totally fine. But they're starting to say that when you sing correctly, you shouldn't, in other words, you stop the air. I understand what they're trying to say, but for many of you who perhaps are thinking or trying to take that literally, stopping the air when you sing, that's not a good idea. First of all, anytime there's phonation, anytime, you're using air. Air is passing through the chords. Even if you're grunting with the most pressurized, with the most tense closure, even if you're going that horrible, your air is still passing through. If you're doing any sort of phonation, that's a sound. So if you're doing any sound, air is passing through the chords. Please do not misunderstand when other teachers are saying you need to stop the air. That's a sensation, okay? It feels like I'm stopping the air. In other words, I am not stopping the air. I am allowing the air to go through the chords through a very narrow opening, a very bright, pure, clear vowel. Okay? One way to prove this, hey, we're in a pool. Bubbles. Okay, so if there's bubbles, there's air. I'm gonna prove that point wrong. I'm gonna try to squeeze my chord shut as close as possible, okay? As tense as possible. I'm talking about, it's gonna be not very nice for me, but it's gonna try to be as more grunt, as more forced, as to really stop the air, as they say. Still air coming through the chords, because there's bubbles. So that means, at no time when you're singing, you're stopping the air. Never. The air is always going through the chords. We do not want to grunt. But even when we grunt, what does that mean? It means that we're trying to squeeze our vocal cords with so much tension, and yet, air is still squeaking out. It's still getting through those really, really shut chords. And so you get bubbles, you get air. The only time that you stop the air is when you're literally stopping the air, when you're holding your breath. No sound. No bubbles. So, you never stop the air. What most of the teachers, I believe, are trying to say, is just that I think they might be confusing some people by saying it that way, is that the air, when we release it, it has to go through a narrow opening. Not too narrow that it becomes muscular, and not too loose that the sound is breathy, and so we just get a lot of air, and it's just breathy sound. It has to be focused, very focused. Very focused sound. It just cannot be loose or completely tense, but air is still going through. Like I tell my students, we have a hose, like a water hose, but instead of water, it's pumping out air. You don't ever stop that hose. That hose, when you take a breath, it fills up the tank of air, and then as you release, that hose is open. Air is starting to go through. The only thing that hose needs to go through is this narrow opening. The air needs to go through a narrow opening. Don't stop the air. Ideas of stopping the air, or it needs to be stuck down here, builds muscle tension. It builds singing that involves grunting. When you grunt, is the closest you can get to stopping the air. When you're lifting weights. No. Let it go. Release the sound. This is what I mean by release, by the way. Release doesn't mean falsetto. It doesn't mean light sound or nasal sound. No, release means never stopping the air. This is why I teach with a sigh. And then I go to the next level with a moan. Minimal chord closure. Open the throat. Next level. Good. Then little subglottic attacks with a very bright Italian and then sustain those. So you never feel like you're holding, tensing, lifting, weight, heft. Okay? Don't stop the air. We sing sul fiato, on the air, always.